Hi, Gail.
Hello.
That link that you sent this was for 7/16. I was just looking at, maybe I looked up an old email with the link in it. Anyway, well, forget it. I found my way to the right place. So
Yeah, I think every week Grace sets us up with the same Zoom URL.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's probably what happened. Yeah.
let's see, I'll see if anyone texts in that they have a trouble.
Oh, I have a somewhat amusing service call story to tell you. You'll be pleased, or maybe not pleased, to know that bears have taken a dislike to our fiber optic system. Uh, they apparently like, or at least at this one location, they like scratching their backs on the service poles, but they didn't like the cables. So one nameless bear ripped the fiber right off the pole. So fortunately didn't break the fiber, but pulled the conduit off our mini conduit, and so we taped it up and repaired it as best we can, and restapled it to the service pole. But that's a new and interesting development.
That's funny. Was it vigorous bear back scratching, or was it like the bear just like, I don't want this here? And
I have no idea. I mean, I wasn't there
Yeah.
to witness the bear doing all of this, but the claw marks were clearly on the pole, right where the fiber was. And so you just never know where the next threat is coming from.
That's great.
There have been a lot of bears. Actually, I've seen a lot of bears recently. They seem to be very fond of my stash of chipmunk carcasses and porcupine carcasses. As I defend my garden from the vermin, the local vermin, which is a big full-time job, let me tell you.
Where was this, Jim? The pole with the bear?
Next door at
Okay.
322.
Hmm. I just saw Crocker's email about the ONTs getting knocked out.
Oh,
Yesterday, the email went out. It's like 4:21, so apparently just went out. Yesterday, I was driving out to Lake Wyola, and I saw a truck pulling into the town hall, and thought, wonder what they're up to. And then I out at Lake Wyola, I saw a tri-wire truck out there. So
I don't think I've seen that email.
It just came in.
Just came in. All right. Well, I'll take a look for it.
Yeah, it came from a discussion about 2 weeks ago that I had with Tim, because we've had just a couple of ONTs get knocked out from lightning strikes,
Mhm.
and they didn't have surge protectors for them. And so he said we should probably just send out a blanket message to everyone reminding them that your broadband equipment should be protected.
Mhm.
So I readily agreed with that. I don't know if anyone's going to take action on it, but
Yeah.
worth a try.
Yeah.
So you said just 2? His email
Those are
says,
the only ones I know of.
his email
Yeah.
says an unusually high number of
Mhm.
Well,
What's
that's
that,
what I
Craig?
wonder if this
of
is
ONT issues of ONT issues.
recent. So it sounds like this has happened since this discussion you had, Gail.
Yeah, well, it came about because of all of these summer storms. And so
Yeah.
far, I know 2 ONTs that have been clearly taken out by lightning strikes.
And not including me or including me?
Oh, not even including Jim's, which was farther back.
Jim, I expect you to have surge protection.
I do have surge protection. I have a very nice AC line conditioner on my equipment, but the problem
That's
was
what I would have expected.
well, I run Ethernet cable, and Ethernet cable provides a wonderful antenna for when the lightning strike is in a tree that's next just a few feet away from your house and hits the foundation of the house and the electrical system. You pretty much are everything electronic is cooked. So
Wow.
it did a lot of damage, including the ONT and the router both got toasted.
Yeah.
Let alone the TV set and God knows FM tuner, antenna amplifiers, the works, everything went up.
Wow.
And everything went up, including my insurance bill, which no, which I put in a claim and they paid, but they're bound to get it back sooner rather than later. Oh gee.
Yeah, insurance is just a loan.
Yeah, boy, I just God. I asked my agent how many years is that penalty going to be on my bill, and he said, oh well, 3 years is usually they take it off after 3 years unless you have another claim. So anyway, I'll have to wait this one out.
So he sent one of the links I followed. It was an Amazon link, and it was a search, and it did have a bunch of surge protectors, but the very top listings were battery replacements for surge protectors. And I hope that the naive don't get confused by that, because obviously those are useless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that our customers understand what's a surge protector.
I know that both we and Crocker are probably reticent to recommend specific devices, but it certainly would be better for customers if we did.
Yeah.
Are the folks who lost their ONTs, did they have Ethernet cable attached to them apart from what goes? I mean, most people just have that little 5-foot or 6-foot piece that goes from the ONT to the router, and it's a wireless from there on in. And that situation would be probably a pretty safe from some of the exposure that having an Ethernet cable would expose the router to, and then it goes back to the ONT. I don't know. It could be.
Yeah, I don't have those details.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
As you might recall, initially Certex was not thinking to disconnect where house wiring was linked into the telephone, the pots, the analog telephone. You might recall they were not bothering to disconnect them at the Verizon lines, which now they did maybe 50 houses before we called them on that. But
yeah, I forgot about the POTS line and the damage that must have. I mean,
yeah, with the house wiring.
Actually, that probably is what toasted my ONT and probably everyone else's too, because that wires are just running all over the house, and if the strike is near enough, that surge, it can,
a nice inductive pickup. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's let's get started. Let's approve the previous meeting minutes. So I need some MLP members, which I am no longer a part of, to make this motion and move that forward.
Move we accept the minutes of whatever the date was.
June 16th.
The June
June
minutes
16th.
as amended.
That's
But
right.
Craig, you just
I am
sent
not.
out a very recent, no,
Oh, I sent out some, yes, I sent
It's
out a
just-
last minute update.
yeah.
But Craig, you made some good points with, we don't want to do, we really do have to have the discussion with Crocker, and we have to be able to go forward. So it has to be a premium business thing that really does cost premium to cover its costs. And we don't know what that is yet, obviously. Yeah.
Right.
If we even do it.
So Jim, do you have Craig's?
Yeah, I have Gail and Craig's most recent updates.
Yeah, I only sent
Okay.
one, so that's good.
Yeah. So they're.
Okay, so I have moved.
I second as they were amended.
All in favor? Great. All right, next thing we need to talk about is, do we need a board chairperson? Normally, the role of the chairperson is to run the meetings. Unlike other town committees, we have me, who's the manager, who typically does that. So I don't think that we need the other roles as like the recording secretary and treasurer of like kind of like formal roles on our MLP board. My thought on that is that it just adds more paperwork and tracking to have distinguished roles that we don't really need. I don't know if kind of legally or procedurally we have to have a chair. All committees I know of have one, but the reason they have one is for running the meetings, which we don't need. I mean, unless I'm out of pocket or something. So,
Well,
any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there are other committees that have staff people, and for instance, the select board has the town administrator at the meetings who has a lot of information, but the select board still elects a chair who does run the meeting. Board of Assessors, you know, we have a staff person, but we also had a chair. You know, there were times when the administrative assessor would just run the meeting because, you know, he knew everything that was going on, but officially it was the chair of the board that was running the meeting.
So I think Gail points out correctly in this case that she is the logical one to run the meeting because she knows more than any of us. And that's perfectly fine with me.
There is also, you know, there may be a legal issue. I just found what Grace gave me when I signed up for the to run for the office, and I just dug this out a few minutes ago. I will go through it and see what if it addresses that issue.
Yeah, we could look at it a little more closely on that basis. I agree. You run meetings very, very well, Gail. Yeah, it may be that we need to have, or it may be that it's much more standard for a board, even when someone else, a manager or whatever, runs meetings. I suspect that some chairs of boards don't always run meetings, but you know, we could, if it is so standard that a board has to have a chair and a chair has to be a member of a board, then I would suggest we rotated every year through the three members, and then we do have we do have a chair if we have to have one for purposes of organization. Yeah, do you know, Craig?
No, I don't know. My recommendation is that we just pick one of you as the chair, and then you delegate your leading the meeting to Gail.
Yeah.
Right, and that way legally we've got a non-employee person running, a member of the board running the thing, but they're delegating
Mhm.
that to Gail.
Yeah, I'm good with that because as I'm thinking more about it, Gail now is the employee, well, a town employee, but who
Right.
to this board. As Gail, we've all discussed, well, you haven't signed on for life here. If you were to move along,
No.
new person, if
Good. That's another
If
good
you-
point, Steve, for
and when you
continuity.
hire a new person, that person, the board might not necessarily want to immediately be running the meetings.
Sure.
And so to have one person who was the lead person, I think it would be good to have that in place.
Great.
And-
Which one of you three want to do it? Or I should probably say two, because I think it's unreasonable to ask Jim to, I don't know, run a meeting and also take notes. But I guess if if it's going to be just kind of acting chair delegating, maybe that doesn't matter. And any of you feel called to take that role?
Gail, would you accept the role of delegated to run the meetings just because you do it well and you're the
yeah, for sure. This is
as a
just
manager, you're totally
a
appropriate.
figurehead appointment of one of you taking the name of the chair, but you don't actually have to do anything about it.
Well, it's a figurehead. It's like the Queen of England,
Yeah.
not that. Jim, I think you can stop taking notes here. This is just, Jim, do you have any thoughts particular to yourself?
All right, well,
Yeah.
I'm
Anyway.
glad to take the role, Graham. If you want the role, I'm glad to have you take the role.
I'd go back to suggesting let's rotate it every year because it's a figurehead. It's nice to kind of be called MLP chair every now and again, and
yeah,
uh,
sounds good.
and as Craig will tell you, you don't want to be the department head all the time anyhow because people will just phone you up and bug you. Let's do it alphabetically on first names or last names. Who's up first? G, J, S on first names. That would make me for the first year, or last names would be SS. Oh, that doesn't sound very. I'll be chair for the first year.
All right.
I self-nominate. Anyone want to vote for me?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think somebody else should nominate you, Graham.
Oh yeah, well that's self-nomination. Does anyone want to nominate me, please?
I will nominate Graham.
I'll second.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
All in favor of electing Graham as the acting chair.
I recuse. Note that I recuse.
Excellent. All right, I will make a note of that.
Thank you. As my first act, I would ask the manager of our board to continue in her wonderful management of our meetings.
I accept.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Okay. All right.
Let me just mention one other thing. Graham, you had suggested that we have a treasurer and a recording secretary. And I just want to say, I don't actually think it's maybe it would be even appropriate for us to have a treasurer because we're not an independent financial organization. All our funds are actually town funds. The checks, the revenue checks from Crocker are made out to the treasurer, town of Shutesbury. They're deposited in the town's regular checking account. It's just a line item on the town's budget that money is encumbered for the MLP. And the bills, when I submit the bills for payment, it's the town treasurer that pays the bills out of the town checking account. So
I agree.
Okay.
I have used the term MLP finance manager occasionally, informally, mostly for external purposes. If I'm like contacting Crocker's finance person, I want to let them know that, I've got legitimate reason for asking for some information, but I don't think we need a formal title.
Okay. If you ever think you need a title of anything that makes it functionally helpful, then we would empower you to call yourself it, whatever. And
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. We could even make it formal. And
Yeah,
Jim can
yeah.
be the recording secretary. That, I mean,
Great.
and
Okay.
I'll be the court jester heckler who has no role.
Okay, we've
He'll
got
do
to
Waldorf and Standler in the peanut gallery.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, I would suggest, Jim, that the terms are 1st of July to 31st of whatever June's got number of days. And then
Don't make him the finance manager.
Okay.
All right, Graham, anything to report from the good old hut?
The good old hut was bouncing along when I changed over the HVAC system, and there were no critters on the floors, probably because you swept it last there, Gail. And I did notice that as I looked at the log for entry, that Crocker, Tim Otto, was in there on Friday at about 5:30 p.m. till 6:30 p.m. So I actually had to do something. I don't know. I'm up on Lake Champlain. I'm looking out this window here. But I assume that there was no outages on last Friday, were there? Nothing.
Nope.
Okay, so some odd routine for Friday evening. And there weren't too many repairs for the month, about 5. Tree limbs on, according to the Crocker report, tree limbs knocked down a few things, and a mouse chewed something and had to be replaced. And of the, I made a note of the 51 trouble tickets or help tickets. There were 22 of them were from the Crown Castle / Crocker outage. So that's 30 help tickets. Some of those tickets are, as we know, were just questions about things. So, it was a pretty average month, I think, for problems from Crocker's perspective and from therefore our perspective. Nothing else remarkable to report.
Great.
We did have a significant couple power outages in town last Wednesday with a very bad thunderstorm we had. Internet kept running, so
Yeah, I watched the our generator kick on and kick off, so I'm pleased with that, and everything seems to be working well.
So it did.
Whoa, did our generator turn on? I didn't get an email.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, I got one.
Wow.
I didn't track what day it was on, but
because I checked National Grid's website, and the outages, there was one up on Wendell Road, and then we lost power. It was, West Pelham Road was knocked out, and Pelham Hill Road. I didn't see that the center of town was impacted. So
yeah, I remember seeing one come through. Jim, do you remember it? Maybe I'm thinking of just the exercise notification. It's weekly exercise. Jim, do you remember one coming through? I thought there's more than usual notifications from the generator.
Well, I didn't see any notifications coming through, but I might have accidentally overlooked it.
Yeah,
because there are those reports that come on every Wednesday, and so I don't really study those too closely.
Yeah, I unfortunately, because we get a notification every time it comes through, I become kind of blind to them
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, it's the weekly notification, but all right.
And the storm was on Wednesday.
Yeah, so it's extra confusing.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Well, Southern Shutesbury got knocked out, and Steve will infer, but we didn't lose power up here. Although there was a strike less than 500 feet from my house, which blew the circuit breakers on my neighbor's pole, both down on Loxpond Road and up by the house.
Wow.
Yet their ONT and their router survived, and also everything in the house. How that
Wow.
happened is I have no idea, because usually when you get a strike that, that pops the breakers on the poles, especially at both ends of a 9-pole run, you would think that there would be some serious damage, but there wasn't. So I don't know. But it was a hell of a storm, because I had everything. I was running around unplugging everything after the experience I had in June, and it's a miracle I didn't get hit again.
We had hail here.
Yeah, that's
Given that we were going away for 10 days, I unplugged a few things like TV sets.
good idea.
Yeah. Including the Cat 6 cable to things.
All right. Other things going on is I'm still exploring our backhaul options with Crocker. It's gonna take a little while for them to pull together all of our options. So I've asked them to put together kind of a matrix of all of our different options for that. The costs involved, any contract terms, one-time or ongoing costs, plus diagrams of the network paths, so that we can figure out vulnerabilities in them.
Mhm.
I know I don't have a good understanding of kind of how the backhaul feeds fit into our network. So I will get that as part of our decision making information for how we're going to deal with this backhaul in the either currently or with our next contract.
Gail, I remember you were concerned that the MBI circuit and the Crown Castle circuit going to Springfield and landing at the Crocker room, that was a vulnerability in itself. And just out of interest, that's not a vulnerability if Crocker has a backup that is not Crown Castle for them running their own equipment. And so just, there might be a better arrangement that they propose, but that's not catastrophically bad if their equipment is properly, set up to handle it. Crown Castle could go down. If they've got an MBI circuit for us, it should still be able to work.
Right. The problem with that was that Crocker's backup was also Crown Castle. So when they went out, they couldn't interact with it at all.
Yeah. No, they need a different. And they were. I think you said they knew they had a vulnerability. They got to do something about that vulnerability.
Yeah.
Obviously now. So.
Yep. All right. Financial report, Steve.
Okay. This month's financial report is going to show some of the demonstrate some of the curious nature of the enterprise fund accounting. So, is right now our FY22 balance is negative because I've paid some bills this month and we have had no revenue since the start of the fiscal year, which is July 1st. But it's not a problem because town meeting voted us a budget of $473,400 for FY22. So that total amount is available to us to spend as of July 1st. So the town just pays our bills. We're running in the red, but it doesn't matter. Related to that is our retained earnings for FY21 are now approximately $201,000. Gail Weiss is still fine tuning some things. She's going to credit a few $100s more of interest to it, so I don't have the exact figure. And one of the reasons that the retained earning is particularly high for FY21 is because we had 13 monthly payments from Crocker included in it. Due to the conversion from the electronic fund transfers from Crocker, from their previously just mailing us a check, it meant that there was a credit was made on June 28th, 2021, just before the close of the fiscal year on June 30th. And if that had been mailed, it wouldn't have gotten deposited until into July. So as a 1-year thing, we've got this higher balance. So the retained earnings there of over $200,000 means that a year from now, well, okay, I'll back up. It's going to be a payment will be made on the ban, the loan this August, and after that payment's made, the balance on that loan will be $127,000. So we clearly can pay that off a year from now because we'll have.
Yep.
Thank you, Gail.
Sure thing.
So yeah, this is the payment due August 20th of this year. Well,
my computer's gone unstable. I'll probably have to turn it off and join you again. Okay.
Okay.
Means we'll have the balance there of 127,000. And with already we've got over $200,000 in retained earnings that can be put against that a year from this coming August.
Yeah. So I love these numbers. I love that our short-term borrowing is going to go away next year.
Yep.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. And we'll have over $70,000 that we can put towards something else as well. So, when we're putting together the budget for FY23, we're starting in a very good position.
Yeah, I wondering if that excess we could put it away in a rainy day maintenance fund.
Yeah, we can use that as our emergency reserve and just not appropriate anything towards the emergency reserve because
right.
Yeah.
Having excess funds is a wonderful problem to have. So we'll keep that up.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, other things. So the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, otherwise known as EBBP, the best tongue twister ever, was deployed along with Lifeline. What was it, 3 weeks ago? A few hiccups, but overall it went pretty well. And as of last week, we had 16 applicants. 14 of those have been fully approved, so they will start seeing discounts on the July bill. Out of those, only five of those are EBP only, so they just wanted the $50 discount. They didn't care about the Lifeline, but most of them, 9 of those are both. Of the remaining 2, one of them had just applied, so it wasn't approved, and the other's application was having some issues, but Crocker is helping them with that. So after kind of the initial flurry of questions and problems that came in, it's working well. We're going to start seeing additions to our monthly reports about Lifeline customers. It does not affect our accounting at all. All of that goes through Crocker, but it'll be a nice thing to track. One of the reasons it's going to be important to track is because we have to pay $80 for each subscriber that puts in a Lifeline application. And there's going to be a $50 renewal cost annually for each eligible subscriber. So the program is still pretty early. I'm guessing total we might have, and I'm just spitballing, I have no idea, but I'm guessing like maybe 25 at the most. So it's not going to be a budget breaker. Also, oh, I forgot, because of the CAF2 funding that is all kind of tied up in this, we had to offer the Lifeline services as an order to be eligible for the census block of that CAF funding. All that's happening now, though. So sometime in the next year, I expect we'll start getting $14,000 a year from that CAF funding over a period of 10 years. So any fees or whatever that we're paying to Westfield Gas and Electric to administer Lifeline will well be offset by our CAF 2 funding going forward.
Good.
Yep. All right, Steve, I think it was you who had asked to talk about thinking about some thank yous for our departing members. A card, a gift, an email.
No, it wasn't me. It's a
Okay.
perfectly good idea, but
Okay, I can't remember who suggested that. Maybe it
might have
was.
been Grant.
Oh no, Graham's in. I'm sorry, Graham's in our waiting room. I've neglected him. Oh no. Hold on.
Didn't our departing members get t-shirts a while back?
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Graham. I neglected to let you in from the waiting room. I didn't even know you were there.
That's okay. It's silly Dell, as Steve will agree, Dell laptops are absolutely, it's my last laptop from Dell. They go unstable in odd ways.
So I was just talking about somebody, I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was you, Graham, suggested doing thank yous for our departing members.
Yes.
Okay. So something, a card, a gift, an email. You know, we were going to have a whole formal thank you and a party and everything, which was handily ruined by COVID.
We could still have it.
So maybe we'll still have it. But for the time being, what were you thinking, Graham?
Is there still any money in the slush fund from Usher's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 50. Is it 1,000, Steve? 1,500?
I'd have. I'll look at it. It's I 1,000.
We could use that and invite the web committee or any other techie sort of you know, and so.
All right, so let's I'm just going to make a note to a potential party of some kind this fall. I don't know about all of you, but my summer has gotten so busy with so many people having parties and gatherings and family reunions, and we haven't seen each other in 2 years parties. So, but I think it'll be fun to do maybe this fall.
Yeah, in the fall. It's not urgent. Yeah.
All right, I'll bring it up again around September.
After the last hurricane or whatever. No, that's too late. Yeah.
Yeah, don't wait that long.
Don't wait that long. Yeah. No.
All right. In other news, our manager review went well. This is what it looks like. Communication skills.
Wait, where's that orange? Who's it?
Orange. Delegation and relationships with other towns. The MLP manager only scored a good, not an excellent. It looks worse than it is because of the way it's reported. Everyone feels like they're getting enough information as a member, which is great. This is something we talked about a little bit last time about consider whether there's a need or not to recruit new broadband committee members. So we're not going to do it for now because we still have Craig in the bullpen just in case, but going forward, it's something we really should keep an eye on to make sure that we can keep an MLP board of 3 full. I don't want to out anyone is there of doing this, but I didn't quite understand this comment of an area of an improvement for us as an organization as a whole. I'm not sure if it's does anybody understand what the comment is saying here?
And Gail, it says 2 responses. So is that a compilation of 2?
Oh, the other one is just
Yeah.
NA. So
Oh,
really,
okay.
it's just one response
Hmm.
here. When I first read it, I thought maybe it was a comment about our branding problem, where people don't realize that the Shutesbury MLP is its own entity and that Crocker is a separate vendor entity. Any ideas?
It's a huge, a big enthusiast for Crocker, obviously. Are they an employee possibly?
No, this is only from us.
Uh,
This includes our recently retired.
Yeah, so, okay, so if it's nobody on this call, then
it's
it's
not,
somebody who's not here, but
it's not my opinion.
yeah.
I mean, you know, I
not
won't say it's
me.
wrong, but yeah, no, they're very enthusiastic about Crocker. Yeah, you know, I mean, Crocker has done fine, but
I mean, as I read that, I'm thinking, well, I've been critical of Crocker, and so maybe, somebody listening thinks, well, I or other members of the board have been overly critical of Crocker, and we should look at what they've done. It's good.
yeah, oh yeah, well, yeah, it's an interesting opinion. So
I don't
Yeah.
think there's any need to dwell on it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any action step there. So
no.
anyway, it's interesting. We'll keep this survey going. I am going to send it to the select board, so that maybe they can start using it for other paid town employees. I really do feel strongly it's a good idea, for feedback and improvement. So we'll see. Okay, so this next one is from Kathy at Crocker. So it's about our reactivation fee. And we do, what she's saying is that they have difficulties enforcing the $250 fee when a home is being sold or if a tenant is moving in or out. She said 99% it's not an issue. The new owners take over within days. Apartments are rented quickly and new accounts get set up. But when it doesn't happen, she says it's nearly impossible to charge the fee or have it accepted by a new tenant. And I understand that, because if you were moving into an apartment, the landlord did some work, there's a 90-day gap. That would be pretty bad to have to move in and be like, yeah, we'll turn on your internet, but it's going to cost you $250. So they've worked with a few landlords that have accounts put in their name during the vacancy to pay for the gap. Crocker's trying to work on it, but what she's asking is, could they limit the 90-day reactivation fee only to winter shutdowns or other service suspensions where the billing is not changing to a new customer? I'm not adverse to this idea, but I do see a potential for abuse here, where you could just keep switching the account holder back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we also have to be careful that we're consistent in our policies, and I don't know if changing address is a reasonable reason to. I don't know. Maybe it is.
Yeah, to recap, there's been 80 homes who have used the seasonal shutoff since fall 2019. So it's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
It's I'm a little bit reluctant, just, I agree with you, Craig, that there's no way that we can enforce a consistent policy here of, if we say yes to Crocker, it's kind of up to them of like, well, you decide when it's a landlord tenant or host or home sale situation and when it's not. Like, it's kind of up to you. The other thing we could do is say, go ahead and change it. And if people take advantage of it by going through the trouble of switching the account back and forth, they can do that. It does cost them $49 every time that there's a customer change. So, you know, if like a husband and wife are switching back and forth, they would have to do that. So it, you know, it's a little bit of a curb there for it.
So when she says it's hard to enforce, I don't know what that means. Does that mean the customers just say, all right, I won't take internet? Because she can enforce it. She can just say, I'm sorry, we're not
Right,
turning
we're
it
not-
on
we're not
until
doing it.
until you
We're not
pay.
doing
I
it.
mean, that's easy to enforce.
Yeah, she just says when it does, when it does happen for a renter, tenant, or new homeowner, it's impossible to charge the fee or have it accepted by the new owner or tenant. So I read that to mean that there's just a ton of pushback and they just kind of throw up their hands and say, fine, you don't have to pay it.
Yeah, that's different than impossible. That's different than
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very possible to enforce this. It's just that
And-
they end up taking a lot of grief. I understand.
I've been concerned about that $250 fee for some time. We talked about this maybe a year or so ago, and I didn't like the way it was, we had it set up, but I did feel that the seasonal shutdown was a good policy to have in there. It did take care of most of it, but to me, the idea that, you know, a tenant moves into a property, says, you know, they've heard that, wow, Shutesbury's got this great broadband, and they move in, they're going to be here a year, and then they find, you know, they're getting socked a $250 fee. It might just be a deal breaker for them. They really aren't going to pay $250 on top of the regular fee because, you know, the place is sat empty and the landlord didn't continue the service. I mean, there was a case where a landlord did pay it and then said, from now on, if a tenant moves out, he'll keep the service in his name and include the service price and the rent. And, you know, to encourage that, that's good. But in a case where that hasn't happened, I guess I don't like to see us denying somebody service because they're going to have, you know, they can't, or just it's just not feasible for them to pay the.
But if we change the policy, then the landlords who are currently floating it will not, and then we're going to lose income.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is to tell Crocker to say, tell the customer, look, your landlord didn't pay internet for the past 3 months, and it's the policy that when that happens, this happens. In other words, go talk to your landlord about it. It's not our mistake.
Yeah, I think that's the tenant can push back against landlords, and I think while Kathy might feel bad about it, that, you know, it's like, it's good internet service, and we've got our policies for good reasons. So.
I mean, the question we have to ask ourselves is, if we were to be completely lax, and apparently Wired West is going in this direction, that says you can turn on and off whenever you want and there's no charges. What kind of revenue do we think we're going to lose if we do that? That's the.
Yeah, we could do some quick back of the envelope estimations there. So there's 80 homes that have used a seasonal shutoff since fall 2019. So that's like a year and a half. So 80 times time, we'll just say our $50 MLP fee times, we'll say 5 months to be conservative, of, you know, a 5 month setup or turn off there. So that's 50 times 50, sorry, 20,000.
Okay, and it's a little worse than that because because there would be more than 80 if there was no penalty for shutting off.
Yeah, I really question that 80 figure because I see the bills every month, and you can it's very easy to see who is paying that the seasonal shut off, because it's a $45 a month revenue to us instead of 52. And I sometimes even sort the revenue by the amount. And right now it's like, you know, it's just a handful, 4 or 5 maybe maximum, because this is the in season. but through the winter, I don't think I've ever seen more than 10 take
Hmm,
seasonal shut off. And
huh.
80 is
This-
I'm really puzzled by this.
Yeah, okay. This number of 80 was grabbed from previous meeting notes from me.
Hmm.
So it was not a recent calculation. I
I-
wonder if that's 80 months of seasonal shut-offs, not 80 homes since fall 2019. So,
Steve, would you be willing to do a deep dive on this?
Yeah, I'll
okay.
I'll go in and pick out some. I'm not going to go month by month, but I'll look at, like, November and in January, say, for
Yeah, just a couple months
years.
average of how
Yeah.
many homes are paying the seasonal shut-off rate.
Kathy
Yeah.
at Crocker might have this right, totally sortable on her spreadsheets. She might just know easily.
yeah, she might,
I'd
If
trust
asked.
Steve.
or she might not.
I'd trust Steve to get it right.
Yeah, I-
All right, we'll table this, wait for information and revisit next month.
I think you're right, Steve. I see the connects and disconnects on the ticket, on the the support ticket things, and the numbers wouldn't be 80 in a season.
So, if it's a small number, then I think we should just say, all right, fine. Let's just waive the whole thing. What small is, I don't know.
Yeah,
20,000 wouldn't be small.
20,000 is not small.
No, that would concern me,
But whatever the number is, we might want to figure that it might double if suddenly there was no penalty for shutting off.
It
for the
might,
season.
it might.
right.
I would take advantage, I'm sure. Thrifty people would do it.
Yeah, there's don't forget the middle way here. We could do things like reduce the $250 fee to something like $150. So
could.
that's another option here. If we find out we still want to curb it, but not be quite so harsh with it.
Yep, I think that could be fine.
Yeah.
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 All right, moving along to another policy question. So we had talked about last meeting about the fact that sometimes when a new home needs an installation, this all came up as a result of the Habitat for Humanity home, where they had a port and it was ready to go. We had planned for that as a building lot. Everything was good, except they didn't have fiber spliced in. So in order to get them up and running, there is an additional cost for that. And we had all decided that, yeah, it's not reasonable for single family homes or duplexes to have to pay the mainline construction costs and equipment costs to get their broadband to them. Yes, they have to pay from curb to home, but kind of beyond that, that's all our plant, which should be paid by us. So we all agreed on that. But then the question was, what do we do about the wording of how do we do it right so that it doesn't come back to bite us? So I talked to Chuck Demare and he recommended that we add this. So it's just a couple of paragraphs. I'll just let you read it to yourselves and let me know if you have any questions. So the part that Chuck advised on, giving the disclaimer that he's not our lawyer and was only advising as a accessory friend to our board, was that we needed to tie this in to the land use boards for the town, that just by kind of overlaying their policies against ours, that we would protect ourselves for future development.
Gail, I've read this and I don't understand the final, that the second paragraph there, the final phrase in it, just what a reference is.
Got it. So
Oh.
this paragraph right here is talking about, here's what we pay for
Yep.
single family duplexes and accessory apartments. Basically, we'll take
Yep.
care of it. You don't have to pay it. So this
Yep.
one is any more robust development that's not that. So
My confusion is the final phrase in that rather lengthy sentence, the as decided. This will be paid by the developer as decided by the various land use boards for the town and the MLP board. Well, what is decided?
So my understanding is that if a developer says, I want to put a 12 home subdivision off of Wendell Road, they have to go to all these different boards and request variances and exemptions, or I don't know exactly what. And then it gets negotiated that, well, you're going to have to pay to put the street in. You're going to have to pay to do this. You're going to have to pay to do that. And so we would be a part of that and presumably advise these boards and say, yes, and tell them they need to put in all the internet infrastructure as a part of that as well.
correct.
Does that sound right?
Correct.
Would the word defined be better than decided? But as defined, as required?
Oh yeah, that might be a better
As
word.
required.
Yeah.
Required. I think required is good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, it's a little fuzzy because in principle, the zoning board could say, yeah, you don't have to pay for the internet. But I doubt they will. They're going to come and consult. They're going to come
Yeah.
and consult with us, and we're going to say, look, this is peanuts, and you're already making them put in streets and everything else. Just do
Right.
this.
Well, we also have this little clause in there and the MLP
And the
board,
MLP
so
board.
we can override.
Ah, yes, it's and. Okay, good. Yeah, so I think I'm okay with it.
I would add in the first paragraph something about that all of that, the entitlement is for a primary service, a broadband service, so that for a single dwelling that wanted the second and third because of home businesses or whatever, we don't want to make it sound like we will upgrade their MST out on the street and splice everything down the road for a second and third fiber, which they might want, and we wouldn't want to. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. To bring primary fiber connection. Yeah. So it just hedges our obligation to one per.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody want a woodchuck?
No.
I just found one burrowing outside.
A pet? Are you offering a pet? Oh dear.
Put your ONT on them and wait for a lightning storm.
All right. All right. So if I could have a MLP board member make a motion to accept that, and then we'll vote to take this on as policy.
So move.
I propose we accept that wording. I so propose.
Great.
Anyone second?
Okay, I moved, but I'll second.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
So
yeah, I didn't
we
hear
got, yeah, that got lost. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Any other business for tonight?
I have a quick general question, and that is, Steve, you got out to Beckett and you saw they were wild westing. Craig or
Yeah.
Gail, do you know how many towns has Wild West now reached roughly? What's the number that is actually any do we
There's
know?
a reasonable number, more than a half dozen, I think. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay.
And I was always worried about Beckett because part of their town has internet. and I was worried that they would be a drag on Wired West if they had a low take rate, but apparently they're at 58% right now.
Oh.
And I think they're moderately dense. They have a large population, so they may be profitable at 58. I don't know, and that's good.
They may have a significant issue with vacation because there are a lot of summer homes there.
They were very big on pushing to have no reconnect fees for vacation homes,
Wow.
which in my view, Wired West caved to those people a bit too much, but what can I say?
So Craig, you still attend Wired West meetings?
No, I'm still formally a representative, but their meetings coincide with this meeting, and their meeting just started. Right at 6:30 it starts,
Okay,
and so I have not been going. I probably should jump in every now and then, but I do get all the minutes and all everything, and if there's anything interesting, I forward it to somebody who I think might find it interesting.
And at least you don't have to drive hundreds of miles anymore.
Well, yeah. Well, and for that reason, I probably should be going to some of these, right? I have an excuse if I have to drive 45 minutes or an hour.
But the town of Shutesbury, we discontinued our membership.
Yeah, we don't pay the money, right?
Correct.
We're not paying the $1,000 anymore?
Correct.
No.
Sorry. Oh, all right. Well, then maybe I'm not an official member anymore, but I'm still on their mailing list.
You're in bad standing. You're in bad standing now, or we're in bad standing.
They talk to me when I send them emails, so nobody's mad. Nobody's mad at us from what I can tell.
No, we still have a relationship with them. Like, there's interchange between Jim Draw and Steve about information about using Verizon as a backhaul provider. And we're definitely going to be pulling them in further conversations, because I do think that there is some opportunity to share in our redundant backhaul going forward. I know it's a hot topic for Wired West. And so I will keep you all posted about some of the possibilities and configurations that can take. We're paying for 10 gigs right now. That's $3,500 a month to Crown Castle, and we're using 3. 7 is just sitting there. It's really sad. And I know that other towns are paying a per gig cost because they're not big enough to buy in bulk. Beckett probably is, but towns like Wendell and New Salem have to buy by the gig, which is much more expensive than the bulk package that we get.
But Wendell and New Salem, I assume, are getting their backhaul from MBI.
Correct.
What's this? What's the new management company for their line?
I forget what they're called.
Yeah, something X.
So.
Yeah.
But
and that, Gail, the figure you gave, that's our total backhaul cost. The 10 gig with Crown Castle is $2,600 a month. So
yeah.
It's 20.
No, it's
no,
that's our total backhaul is 2,600.
Yeah. If you'll remember, the actual cost of Crown Castle is 3,500, but we only pay half of that because there was a contract mistake that Matthew owned. And so they're footing half of that bill for us. So we're getting a great deal on our 10 gig.
So that'll go up a bit when that cost will go up.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, the costs are already coming down. There might be a better deal from Verizon coming in. So, I mean, what I'd love to see is some kind of arrangement where we as Shutesbury, no, not even we as Shutesbury, the Crocker buys a chunk of backhaul and then resells it around to benefit everybody. I don't know how that can work if Crocker's not the ISP for everyone. In the past, we had talked about it and they had said, well, no, it can't work. But I've had more recent conversations with Tim Otto saying, no, there actually is ways that you can do this. as long as there's agreements between the network operators of how everything works. Again, technical stuff above my pay grade of how that works, but there is some ways that it could work. So I'll send around information as soon as I get it. I imagine that when we get the kind of the backhaul matrix choice data for how we're going to do that, that we can include some of these options in that. I've been in touch with Ray DiDonato in Wendell, and he's very interested in figuring out some way to share our backhaul.
Mhm.
And did we hear somewhere Crown Castle's prices are coming down as well?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Everybody's prices are coming down.
Right, yeah.
Verizon's, Crown Castle. It's great.
So it's not bad. The future doesn't look bad on that score.
Yeah.
And our usage hasn't been going up there. Yeah, it's stayed pretty solid at.
But is MBI making any effort to reduce their
No.
price?
No.
But if enough places start jumping ship, maybe they will. And
Yes, that would be pressure, wouldn't it? Yeah. So
so have you guys been following what's going on to the west of us? MBI is looking at sort of repairing some of the bad designs they did, sort of. Do you guys know about that at all?
pressuring. They're pressuring for it, and you know, we couldn't argue that it would be a bad thing for them to patch up. But it really sounded like what's her name, Carolyn Kirk. Is it Kirk?
Yeah,
was saying that if a town doesn't have a different supplier, a data supplier, then a second circuit from MBI is something that should be paid for, just like we're paying for a second circuit. So you know, there's the real issue will be, does MBI currently meet SLA standards that they should? You know, it sounded like when that thing failed in Holyoke, was it? Did you say it was, Craig, that that MBI or whoever their Axia is now, you know, so that's the question, and that's a very and that's a data that's measurable, and so. One of the things on just the descriptions, these circuit schematics of whatever our feeder backhaul circuits are, we want to have good details on that, because if it's, say, you know, anywhere in town on 108 on 144 fiber or 288 fiber, you know, if such a cable gets broken, we want to be able to tell them, by the way, fix this 24, you know, before you fix anything else, because you know, if they just start at number one and we end up, and the main circuits or the backhaul circuits are the important circuits to us for the wide area network, are up in the high numbers, then so we got to have that sketch in a detail, because it can take on 144 or 288, it can take you know, 6 hours to get to the whole cable. So splice, if it's a splice repair, and so anyhow, and some splice repairs are too, you know, at either end of a chop or a cut, you know, so therefore it can be a long time. And if you have critical fibers, then you want to know what they are without having to go into the heart and work it out, all kind of like, you know, scratching your head, and, you know, so just something that we need to have. The wide area network circuit not only has to be understood clearly by us, but we have to have it down to the detail of what pairs are we on. And those towns that run through ours, we also need to, for their benefit, we need to know what fibers, what particular fibers they're running on, so we can fix them first too. Just a general comment. And Gail, do you have still a monthly chat with Tim Otto?
Weekly.
Oh, a weekly, right? Weekly. Yeah. do you want to throw that open to our board just for those occasions when, is it a Zoom or is it a phone call or?
Yeah, it's a Zoom.
Yeah, I sometimes have thoughts and questions that Tim Otto, yeah, if you want to just announce it to us, maybe every when you get it, is that possible?
You are welcome to join us. It's just a standing date every week.
Okay.
So that we don't have to, go through scheduling every week. So it is at 2:00 every Wednesday. So let me put that in the chat feature.
I certainly don't want to encumber it with it having to be a open meeting law sort of thing, because
Yes,
as long
exactly.
as we have to avoid getting to a quorum of we three, but that's not going to be hard to do if given that,
Right. So to avoid that, why don't we do this? If anyone ever wants to come and has questions or wants to speak to Tim directly, just shoot me an email and say, please include me on the next meeting. I'll send you the link and the time. There are some times when we have to change the meeting if I have a day job work conflict,
Sure.
and sometimes Tim has stuff too. So just let me know, and
Okay.
you're welcome. You're welcome to come. That does remind me that one thing that's been on my list with Tim for a long time that's just been kind of stale and sitting there is we had talked about doing a security audit on Crocker a while back. Becky had a lead for someone at the state level who was doing this for free. Never heard back. I contacted Grace, and then it came out like, no, this isn't really what they're like doing different like town hall security. This isn't like a high level network stuff. So anyway, that has been kind of languishing. I do have the names of some companies that were referred to us by Holyoke Gas and Electric, of companies that we could hire to work with Crocker to do kind of a big level security audit if they're to make sure they're following industry practices. So I guess kind of a general question, if you need time to think about it, certainly let me know, but how do you want me to pursue this? Do we drop it until we're going through contract negotiations in 6 months? Do you want me to contact these companies and get quotes on how much a security audit for them to perform on or with Crocker would be? Do you just want to let it go? What do you think we should do?
I think this is important to pursue this. Couple of things that are coming to mind here. One is just all of the cybersecurity issues that are happening now, and then the other thing I'm thinking about is, okay, the Crown Castle outage showed us here was a weakness in Crocker's system that we weren't aware of. Crocker was aware of, but wasn't really doing anything about. And thinking we are relying on Crocker now in cybersecurity to implement all the necessary protocols and protections. But how do we know that Crocker is really doing that job well? And I think having an independent person look into this, to carefully look at what Crocker's put in place to see if it meets industry standards, is it adequate? The difficulty I see here is how do we know that this auditor we're hiring really knows the questions to ask, and what parts of the floorboards to lift up and look at. So that's my thoughts on it.
Well, you just hire another auditor, Steve. You just keep hiring auditors, more auditors.
an expert to look at the expert testimony. I think that you could ask for a couple of quotes, Gail, but I think we would find it was big money. Number one, I would you could just ask Jim Crowley what they do there. It would be very hard.
I already did. They do all of it internally.
Yeah, okay.
And because of liability, they're not willing to lend out those internal
Oh, yeah,
services,
no,
paid
I
or
understand that.
otherwise.
Okay. So, you know, you could say that Crocker is probably doing what is pragmatic. Steve, we are protected by our SLAs. You know, service level agreements are pretty. You know, I mean, Crocker has to, you know, be able to do that. The sort of things that are happening with you know, hijacking, what are they, ransomware stuff, you know, that's a vulnerability that you know, even that we're probably under the radar. We don't have enough money for someone to try and do that to us, but you know, I don't know.
Actually, the town of Shutesbury got hit with a ransomware thing some years ago. I think it was Gail Weiss's computer wasn't protected, and you know, they go for small issues, small organizations as well as big ones. So.
And then there's Bruce Turner, who, you know, who's not the greatest when it comes to computers. You know, you know, the whole school network. You know, not Shrewsbury School, but the what is it, the network that he is involved with.